on blast.
I don't know about you or our listeners, but I am loving the new team format of Spies, Lies, and Allies. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge. As I said, we're talking about Spies, Lies, and Allies. Before we dive into this episode, we got a lot of comments from last week's episode. It turns out that neither of us can really clearly interpret Logan's accent, and for that, I'm sorry.
I feel, though, that a lot of the people who corrected that, it's because they watch with closed captioning.
Yeah.
I'm convinced of that. But either way.
How do you feel about closed captioning in general?
I sometimes do end up watching the challenge with closed captioning. I sometimes do watch TV with closed captioning. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. I don't know the rhyme or reason for that. But I was not watching in closed captioning. And even when I rewound it to hear him again, I was like, oh, no, that's what I thought he said. So I'm okay with that.
I almost never do closed captioning. I find I just end up reading. And so, I don't pay attention to. Maybe I'm slow at reading. I don't know.
It happens.
But hey, I liked our interpretation better. So,
yeah, made it more entertaining for sure.
So in this episode, CT is saying in confessional how huge it is that they can switch teams.
Mm-hmm.
That you may wind up with a layup on your team.
Yeah.
But it made me think, there aren't that many layups left at this point, right? Who would you see as weak or easy to pick off?
Josh, but I mean, I don't know how, the whole thing's really going to play out because it's so dependent, as we found out in this episode. Everything is so dependent upon what the elimination is, right? And that's something that people take for granted, but it's also just the reality of it all. And I don't really think there is a layup. It's just about matchups. It's almost like the NBA playoffs or NFL playoffs where one team is really good, but if they're facing another team that just, their strength is your weakness, you're going to be in problems. And I think that's a situation they're in now. I don't think there's someone who's super weak per se, but I think that, if you were going, I think we'll get to it, but there's a breakdown at some point from Logan when he was describing Corey and Nelson and Kyle, that to me made so much sense because it was true. If you're going against Corey, well, Corey's super fast, right? So that's something to think about. If you're going against Kyle, well, Kyle's really strong. That's something to think about. And that's just the truth for everyone else that's left in the house.
Yeah. On the women's side, I guess Big T is the closest to a layup, but you can't discount her. I'm not saying that to put her down.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's strong at puzzles. I mean, there's never a swimming elimination, but she can hang.
Yep.
I mean, I don't feel like Emmy is wholly proven yet, but
yeah. I mean, we're gonna find out, right? And I think there's so much focus on the vets. And I thought it was really cool to see the conversation with Ashley and Nani because they were just being straight up and honest with each other about trusting each other and the gameplay and all that. I thought that was super interesting. And I just think from a vet standpoint, as we get into this portion of the season, it's becoming so important to see, I guess, how people have developed, right? And to see Nani have that grown up conversation with Ashley where she's just honest and being like, hey, Ash, you know what? Good job. But there are still moments where, it's good that you did what you did because you showed us trust. But, there's still moments where I don't trust you. And they were just having a normal conversation. And to Ashley's credit too, maybe in seasons past, Ashley would have gotten really mad at that or offended at that. Right. But instead, she just listened, understood, and everything was gravy. They moved on. But the vet that I really want to talk about, unless you got something on Ashley and Nani here.
No, I wanted to talk about the Ruby Cells training program.
That's what I was going to say. No, that's what I was going to say. Unless you want to talk about Ashley and Nani still, I was going to say the vet that I wanted to talk about is Corey. And, we're talking about people developing and maturing over the years. My guy just went in full leadership mode. And I'm going to make, surprise, surprise, people who listen to this podcast, I'm going to make a sports comparison here.
No.
Never happens, right? But this kind of, it's like he's getting his Tom Brady on, not in the championships, but in the sense of taking control of the team and just leading the team in workouts and, players only kind of meetings and stuff. Like Corey setting up this, and I didn't think they would actually follow through, because in the beginning it looked like Kyle and Big T weren't really taking it that seriously. But then they end up, all joining in, and they're getting in a day workout. And the thing that made me laugh was Big T being like, oh, I don't know if I want to work out in the hot sun. And it's like, don't like actual challenges occur in the hot sun? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? But what did you think of Corey's leadership?
Well, we actually have a reader comment. Julia Lamana says, Corey thinking one workout is going to change his team morale is like me getting a gym membership in January as a New Year's resolution. It made me wonder, both Julia's comment and what Corey was doing, is what else could you do to build team morale in the house?
Yeah.
Like within the confines. And like, I will say, it seems to work. I was surprised it worked, but like, it seems to help. It doesn't hurt, at least.
I think, but here's the thing, right? You're totally right. It doesn't hurt. Of course it doesn't hurt. But also, I think that it's just a good way to go about it, because would you rather go the other way and not try to fix it and not try to make it better and not try to show confidence in your team? Because the reality is you're going to have to compete. So wouldn't you rather at least try to make an attempt to see, hey, maybe we can build some camaraderie. Maybe I can like rile these people up and get them on our side and get them on the same side. Like, wouldn't that help? Wouldn't that be key? I think that would be like super amazing a thing for people to want to go through and experience. So good on Corey, if you ask me. I think that was great on his part.
I was also impressed with Logan, who turned the house chessboard into a sign, saying Ruby until death, which I think also contributed. And like, even Kyle, who's quite cynical about the Ruby cell, got on board. I liked what Casey's really gotten better at confessionals, I must say. Casey says it reminds her of an underdog sports movie, like when they do the montage, like in Mighty Ducks, or she's totally right.
Do you know what reminded me? You mentioned montage. The thing about the montage of like the families and all that. Now, I get what they're trying to do, right? From a production standpoint, I totally get it. I understand it. They're trying to get us to feel something for these competitors, right? Get a little backstory of Nelson and Kyle and, just letting you, and Ed, of course, right? And they're trying to let you inside so that you care for these dudes. So you have some vested interest in these dudes so that you're going to care at the end to root for someone in said elimination. So I get all that. But with that said, I thought it went a little too far. Like, I was kind of like, okay, we get it. Like, they're talking to their families. You're trying to give me the tear jerker here. Like, I get it. But to me, it was a little too much. And it goes back into my whole, hey, they're trying to like soften the challenge to make it more viewer friendly and bring more people in and put it on CBS and all that fun stuff. Am I just like salty, or what did you think of that? And I'll open that up to our viewers as well and listeners, because I want to know what you guys think as well.
I have to say, I don't want to upset you, but there was no club scene this episode.
I'm aware. And
all I'm saying is, I think we could have cut this out and had a club scene. But like, if I had a choice, I just like, I don't know. I mean, we know in the long run of this episode why it was important to show Ed's interaction with his mom. And I guess his mom was on the Circle. So Circle fans would know.
Sure.
And, it was important to get a little more backstory on Kyle for this episode. But I don't know that we need to see Nelson and his mom, Gloria. No offense to Nelson and Gloria, but...
No, it's like, again, right? I know what they're trying to do, but it didn't work because it's just not enough. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you know, the Kyle conversation with Amanda was pretty funny, and maybe they should have showed more of that, because I thought that was kind of hilarious, where they're explaining to Kyle, you know, the inner workings of a pregnancy, essentially, I guess,
Yeah.
or of childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was pretty funny. That seemed more challenge-like, for lack of a better term. But
It did.
I thought that was cool.
I'll tell you something, Sheldon. You and I know someone who
I
her
don't want
water
to.
did
I
not
don't. I
break.
don't want to. I don't want. I don't want to know.
She had the exact same
I don't want to
experience as
know.
Amanda.
I
It
don't
does
want to know.
happen.
I've never said that it didn't. I'm just
saying, just to personalize it, Sheldon. We know someone in common.
I just don't need to know those details, is what I'm saying. That's all.
What can I say? I love to share. I just love to put information out there.
Sure.
Much like Amanda.
Sure. Well, Amanda, as we talk about all the time, she's a real one, right?
She's a nurse. She can speak with authority.
For sure. Someone who's not a real one, because I can't help but look at him as the bizarro Jordan. Your man's a man well. Now, the Tori and Emmanuel thing, like, they're showing the showmans, they're showing them flirting. And I just can't look at him without thinking that he's like Jordan in disguise. Ever since whoever brought that up, I can't unsee Jordan when I see him. So I couldn't take the man seriously in the beginning anyways, because we thought he was a vampire. And now I'm seeing like Jordan as a vampire. So I don't know.
He looks so much like Jordan, down to the haircut and rocking the Shroot Farms 3000, you know, the overalls.
Yeah.
It's no good. I mean, I find it annoying. But that said, I can't deny that they have chemistry. Like,
but hold on, do they have chemistry, or like,
are they bored?
Are they bored? And what did Logan actually say? Wanting honey?
Yeah, wanting honey.
Right? Because think about it. What was my guy's name? Kells. Remember Kells and Tori early on?
Yeah, and Emmanuel and Michelle. He dropped the L-bomb on Michelle like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right? So like, and then I thought Tori and Ed were flirting for a split second there. Like, I don't know. My point, though, is just like, cool challenge. They're having fun, and I'm not mad at it, right? Like, it was a good mix. It's just I don't feel anything for either of them, so I just don't really care about them, if that makes sense.
I mean, I like Tori in general.
Tori, and maybe it's because I've just been listening to Amanda too much, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem authentic to me. But hey, I don't know. I'm not there, right? And it's also just a thing where I clearly like Amanda. So when I hear Amanda saying something, I'm like, okay, cool. What about the challenge, the actual daily challenge? Did you think that was cool?
I thought it was interesting. This is such a weird thing to say, but I liked that they have sponsors again. And I don't know why, but like, I mean, I know they've had Burger King as a sponsor a few times. This one was it P3 portable protein packs? Is that what it was?
No idea. I have no idea. Sure.
But it just like, it reminded me of like, I don't know, 10 years ago where they had sponsorship all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like stuff that has aged badly, like stuff where it's like, yeah, the winner of this competition will get a mini disc player or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's something about it, because you know that someone's going to go back and watch this season in like 10 years time and be like, oh, remember P3s? Not that I'd ever heard of them before, but
yeah. Just the added stakes it adds to the competition, for sure.
Yeah. So the competition, satellite sabotage. It's a falling from heights into water competition.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wheel, and each team sits on it, and they're taken up in the air, and they have to jump from bar to bar, and each bar is increasingly further away from the next. And at the same time, the other two teams have fire hoses that they're spraying. And the key thing is, the final jump, you actually have to miss the bar that you're aiming for and grab they call it a plug. I guess it's like a wire, mm-hmm. and rip it out as you fall, which is clearly going to be the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the key part of this whole thing because essentially, I mean, the Ruby team does really well. Corey's team, I hate referring to it as the colors because I just think it's dumb, but Corey's team, and we've also just haven't been in these teams for long enough for me to know right away which is which. But
Yeah.
Corey's, motivation seemed to work. I mean, their team did really well. Their team should have won. And I will be honest, because of Kyle's pass, it made me wonder if he threw it, which like, I don't know what the benefits of that would be, but I'll be honest, while I was watching it in the moment, I was like, wait, why did he do that? Like clearly they explained the rules very clearly and he just didn't do it. And it was really strange. And it was even more strange. I thought that they pretended as if they still won.
Yeah. Well, I think they genuinely thought they had won.
Like they didn't think that Kyle was going to get disqualified.
No. So one thing that occurred to me is that the Ruby team at that point only had 5 players.
Mm-hmm.
So in the event of a tie, it went down to who was fastest.
Okay.
So because they had 5 players, they probably assumed that they were faster.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But they were not faster.
That's fair. And I mean, it was funny because, Josh's team, and I know I'm saying it's Josh's team, even though it's not like he's the leader.
We know it's Devin's team, Sheldon.
Sure. Josh makes himself the leader. He's the emotional leader. Sure. Yeah, they ended up being tied. And as you mentioned, they ended up just being faster once he removed, not Corey, Kyle's attempt. So to me, honestly, I thought right then and there in the moment that Kyle should be the one to go in. And that's what I thought was going to happen. And, he's a vet, so he's not going to volunteer to go in. But I thought that, through the deliberation or whatever, that's what would happen. And if I was Corey and Nelson and I was worried if I was going to end up going in or not, that definitely would have been my argument. Like Kyle blatantly cost his team. He deserves to go in. And, I still stand by it. I think that's how it should have been. But that's not really what ended up going down.
No. Your man's Ed, I don't know how else to say it. He just imploded here. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what planet he's on.
I know what he was doing. He was doing too much. No, he was doing too much. He was trying to give like all these great speeches. He was trying to be everyone's best friend. He was trying to like take out a big dog. He was trying to do too much. And when you do too much, it rarely ever works in your favor.
So in deliberations, Kyle opens up by making a apology again to Ruby. He apologized at the competition, but then he apologized again. Mm-hmm. In the deliberations. I agree with you. It occurred to me that he threw it. In fact, I had like in my notes the question, do you think he threw it? Mm-hmm. But he does seem genuinely upset.
Yeah. Yeah. And they would have shown that. They would have shown a conversation, I think, with CT or with whomever coming up with the plan. And also, I mean, you would assume part of his plan to throw it wouldn't involve him having to go into elimination. Yeah. You don't think, unless he was that confident. No, Kyle's not the one that's going to throw himself in elimination. So that's, save that to the Rooks.
And yeah, we have the Emerald team strategizing. Mm-hmm. They're all very much on the same page. Mm-hmm. Devin argues that they owe Logan more than they owe Ed. Mm-hmm. And that if he had his druthers, like, how can we get Ed to go in? And then Casey asks a great question. Casey's having a great season. She asks, how do we know that Ed won't infiltrate our team? Because, like, I like our vibe. Great question. And like I said, this team twist is so intriguing because it is like, if you're like vibing with your team, you want to maintain, how do you weaken a team without them jumping to your team?
Yeah.
But then Ed makes it academic. After Kyle's apology, Ed announces, basically, he says, like, don't put me in, but put me in.
But this is what I'm saying, doing too much, because he was sitting on the fence, kind of. He was kind of like, well, I'm not really saying to put me in. I'm really saying don't put Logan in. But if you were thinking of to put me or Logan in, then you should put me in. But really, I'm not volunteering to go in. But I was just like, dude, pick a side, man. Pick a side. Doing too much.
I think he threw it out there and then sort of read the room and saw everyone sort of like everyone's reactions. And I think he's like, ooh, like kind of made a mistake here. I also thought, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I would think he was trying to gather some form of sympathy or to like make himself look good. Like, hey, I'm taking one for my teammate or my friend or whatever. Like, I guess that's what he was trying to do. I don't know. I have no idea.
I thought Tori made a great point when she said to everyone, hey, if Ed's willing to get voted in to protect Logan, he's not going to then call Logan down into the sand, which actually would be brilliant. But I don't think is in Ed's character. But like, asked to be put in and then call down the injured guy would be a masterstroke. I would speak more highly of Ed if that was his master plan, but it was not.
It definitely was not.
So Ed gets voted in.
Yeah. And let me ask you, who would you have picked between CT, Nelly T, Corey, and Kyle? Who would you pick like blind, not knowing what the elimination is going to be?
Not CT.
No.
There is no situation in which I would want in shape CT.
No.
I would probably go with Corey.
Oh, see, that's interesting because Corey would be my second not pick after CT. Like I wouldn't want to go against CT. Then Corey would be second. Then Nelson would be third. And then Kyle would be last, actually. And the reason for that is mostly just because Kyle going in blind. Yes. Okay. Kyle, he just had, and we'll get to it, but like, it was just the perfect competition for Kyle. But I feel like if it was so many other different things, Kyle would be the person that I would not want to go against the most. But we'll save it and I'll get to why that is against Kyle. But yeah, that just would have been my pick.
I mean, I have to say, what's frustrating about Ed did a lot of things wrong. But one of the things that's frustrating about what Ed did was Logan, to his credit, immediately pulls him aside and is like, hey, first of all, thank you. Like, you didn't have to do that. That was super cool. And he basically makes the good point that you have to have it in your head who you're going to pick depending on the competition. Logan says, if it's a puzzle, you want Corey or Kyle. They're not so good at puzzles.
Yep.
And like, have in your head, like if it's a headbanger, you got to think like, if it's a speed one, don't do Nelson.
Yeah. Because
Nelson's probably the fastest of the four options.
Yeah.
So then go Corey. Like have in your mind, like analyze the situation and know who you want.
Yeah.
What Logan probably should have said is if it's a pole wrestle, do not go against Kyle.
But this comes back to something we talk about all the time. How much of the challenge are these guys watching before they come on to a season of the challenge? Because I'll be honest, when it came up, because again, my thought was I'd pick Kyle. And then when it came to the actual challenge and you walk in and you can see chances are what it's going to be, I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure Kyle's pretty good at this. And I thought Ed might have a chance against Kyle still, because I thought that, Corey, Nelson, and CT's not even in the equation, right? I don't think that was even a thought process.
We all know, not even CT was worried. Like under no circumstances is someone going to call down CT.
Yeah. So I think between Nelson and Corey, I thought both of them would probably have better stamina. And just because they've been through this before, win or lose, they've been through eliminations before, whereas Ed hasn't. So I was still okay with him taking Kyle until it started. Right? What was your thought on it?
So, I mean, I honestly, I didn't remember that Kyle was so dominant at pole wrestle. Like I knew he'd won at it before, but like I forgot that he's beaten CT at pole wrestle.
Yeah.
I will say though,
not in shape CT though.
No. I will say that, so I originally, like in my notes, it says like, who would you pick? And then I said, it's going to be Corey. And the reason why I said that,
I thought so too,
is because in the coming up on the challenge halfway trailer, there's an argument between Kyle and Devin that we hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, Kyle is not going down because Kyle is going to be on later episodes. And then when he called him down, I was like, oh, well, Kyle's going to win because I know that there's more Kyle to come.
Do you think that also because of Corey just being a nicer guy, that Ed didn't want to go against him either? Like he was swayed because clearly, as CT pointed out, rookies are emotional. They play the game with emotions. And, you know, did Corey make himself just like a better person, we'll say, to Ed? And so that's part of the reason why he didn't choose him. Like, I have no idea and we'll never know. But I just found it interesting that he chose Kyle. I was actually stunned that he chose Kyle because I thought I would choose Kyle, but I didn't think Ed would choose Kyle.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, Ed clearly did not have an idea in his head.
He had no plan. And
he had no plan.
I was stunned at that.
That's what kills me, is that he clearly had no plan. And this was all his idea.
Yeah. Like if you how do you volunteer to go in and not know who you want to go in against once you get there? That should have been part of the plan. And he gave a horrible speech.
Logan, who again is, I guess, his best friend in the house, sort of gave him half a plan.
Yeah.
Or at least said like, hey, bud, you should probably have a plan for this.
And he didn't listen. He didn't
listen. And also, I mean, he says it later on, but Ed says, you know, he realizes that part of the problem is he can't push Kyle away because Kyle's arms and legs are just too long.
Yeah.
Like Kyle has such a reach advantage over Ed that there's no getting away from Kyle. Kyle just like wraps him up and like weathers the storm, as Ashley says.
Totally. And that's the part that I would have underestimated in this, right? And it's logic. You have longer arms. So especially, I think it was the second round maybe, where Ed does such a good job of getting Kyle on his back. But if Kyle was shorter, then chances are it's easier for you to rip it out of his hands. But because Kyle's taller, longer arms, he's able to reach around and still maintain a level of positioning. And Ed really had no chance. Ed was, you know, he was cooked after the first one because he put so much energy into it. Whereas Kyle, if you're the stronger person and you kind of know that confidently, you can kind of gear down, you know, or gear up as needed. And I think that's what Kyle did and he explained it, you know, that he was kind of, you know, playing Ed against himself, essentially letting him tire himself out. And it's a good win for Kyle. It's a good win for Kyle.
I also, again, experience makes such a difference on the show. Kyle says, like right off the hop, oh, he's got the wrong tactics.
Yeah.
Kyle knows exactly what you have to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kyle trains jujitsu, but like his positioning was quite jujitsu adjacent.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like he was using his legs. I felt like the way Kyle was positioning himself, they were told that they couldn't use their feet to push off each other. Because I gotta tell you, like, you know me, I'm a tall drink of water. Were I in a pole wrestle, I would do exactly that. I would like take the other person down, get my feet on their chest, and just push. Yeah. Because like, for those of you who have not met me in person, I'm all leg. Like I'm 2/3 legs. So like, and they're way stronger than my skinny arms. So that'd be the move. And I think Kyle sort of did that. He did it within the rules, I guess. But
yeah, because you could tell there were moments where he could have, but he really didn't. So, I mean, good job, good effort, Ed. But you played yourself, man.
You played yourself,
Yeah.
as DJ Khaled would say.
Mm-hmm.
Now here comes the really interesting part.
Yep.
Kyle gets to choose which team he's going on.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, which team would you have picked if you were Kyle?
I probably would have made the same move that he did. Because if you go to the Emerald team, you don't want to, he's not going to move Devin. So he'd be moving Josh. But then you're bringing on a whole other can of worms that who knows if that's what you want to deal with. So I get what he did. I was more so surprised by the reaction from CT, because I would have thought that they would have had this conversation ahead of time once you knew Kyle was going in. So obviously you would think that would be a possibility. And obviously you would think that he might do that because they've pseudo worked together in the past, even though they always kind of branch off, but they kind of, share the whole laying low in the middle ground. And, CT was not pleased, really.
I was a little surprised at CT's reaction, but as he explained it, I'm like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I would say, I think Nelson switching to the Ruby team makes the Ruby team better.
For sure. Like Nelson is better than Kyle, right? So yeah. I forget who said that. Maybe Kyle was the one that said that. I don't even remember. But
yeah. And also, obviously, Corey and Nelson are on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of the friction that Kyle has with Corey, that's all gone now.
Well, now it looks like there's going to be friction with him and Nelson from the next week on trailer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Again, I was just more surprised by CT's reaction because you knew Kyle was going to obviously switch teams. He wouldn't go back to that team. So no. I don't know. I found that weird.
I think it was the best move for Kyle, which is obviously the decision he has to make. It was so interesting to see everyone else's reactions. Because I think everyone except CT was happy.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
I will say when he made his decision, Kyle had the line of the episode for me.
Okay.
When he said, "My grandfather told me on his deathbed, if you ever get the chance to leave Ruby and follow CT onto Sapphire, do it."
That's pretty good.
That cracked me and TJ up.
Well played. It's well played. My line of the episode was also from the end of said episode when CT's in confessional and he simply just says, quote, "That's what you get for being a nice guy, Ed." I thought that was just perfect because it's true.
I mean,
like you sacrificed yourself. Someone else brought it up too during the episode. I think it was Ashley. It's like you met this guy like 2 weeks ago and you're going to give up $1 million for him. Like, I mean, sure. I don't know. Cool. But yeah, you played yourself.
Yeah. He totally played himself. There was, like I said, the only way in which it works is if he then turns around and calls in Logan and gets that bag.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because it's actually a smart move to be like, oh yeah, guys, vote me in. And then like, I'm going to take out that injured guy.
Yeah.
Because that like, then you've survived another 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
It's a tough one, Sheldon, but who killed it for you this week?
It wasn't that tough for me. My MVP is Corey. Corey killed it in this episode. And I know that his team ended up losing, and I get that. But what he was able to do to make them competitive and competitive enough that they were going to win, right? If we really break it down, you add that up. And to me, Corey is the MVP because nobody thought that was going to happen. Like they should have won. If not for Kyle's stupidity, they win. And nobody thought that they were going to win. And I would like to give the credit to that performance, to Corey trying constantly to bring the team together.
I'm going to give a lukewarm MVP to Kyle.
Okay.
Because what's holding me back is he fucked up in the daily.
Yeah.
There's no doubting that. If he doesn't have that brain fart, if we can call it that, like whatever happened up there, if he doesn't make that decision, Ruby wins. They're doing well. And then, let's say they didn't win and he didn't make that mistake, like let's say someone else had fallen before grabbing the plug. Let's say the same scenario plays out. Ed goes in, he calls down Kyle. Kyle looked like a beast. And Kyle doesn't often get to look like a beast on this show. But he looked good. And again, he's safe for 2 more weeks. He's on a better team than he was, even if CT is not thrilled with this development. And also, Kyle was really funny this episode, which counts for something to me.
Yeah.
But it's the way he fucked up, which was really bad.
It was.
Points off. It's sort of a, because like Ed, I mean, we could make a case Ed was the LVP. Like Ed doesn't have it. No knock on CT, but he didn't really do anything. Nelson didn't really do anything. Devin, Josh, like you can't really single out any of the women because it was a men's elimination. So a reluctant MVP from me to Kyle.
No, that's cool. I totally get it. Totally understand.
Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and obviously like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Lots of content coming. We got the basketball pod back up as Raptor season is here for all my Raptors fans out there. And yeah, keep pumping out the good content, man.
And you can find me on Twitter or Instagram where under Jay Chidley Hill, where I am the undisputed king of Cinnabon. Just real recognizing real. I don't know if you saw that, Sheldon. But you missed this?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna just take a pause to explain that Cinnabon, like the official verified account, this week recognized me as the MVP of eating Cinnabons. They already follow me on Twitter because I'm always complaining about how they removed the Cinnabon from Union Station. So every time I go through Union Station, which is often, I'll tweet like, hey, quick reminder, still no Cinnabon at Union Station. Where is it? And earlier this week, they tweeted like, hey, tag someone that could eat an entire like regular Cinnabon in one sitting. And I quote tweeted it, light work, because that is light work. Like whatever. I if I could, I would do that on the GO train ride to Pickering. Like
yeah.
But again, it's not at Union. And they said the MVP has entered the chat because real recognizes real. So I don't want to brag, but I'm a pretty big deal in the world of cinnamon treats.
I have no comment.
Until next week, this is You Killed It.
I'd yell, but I'm not someplace where I could yell right now.